We talked about a 7-0 vote, and a lot of things get misconstrued. I found that in the last year and a half, that's a lot of what a lot of people that come into this audience do, is then they go back out and they take their take and they pass around information that's completely untrue. And then it gets passed on to somebody else that's untrue. Well, we passed a 7-0 budget. We didn't agree on the funding method. We just shook things up the other night by passing a 5 mil tax increase. And when we passed the 7-0 budget, we agreed on the budget if we were going to stay the course. You talk about May, we could have brought this up. June. No one communicates here outside of, I speak to the Councilwoman Foster, I speak to the acting Mayor Hemmelberg. The new city manager doesn't even communicate with the mayor. I get no communication from him. I don't barely ever communicate with Councilwoman Blanky. Now, I don't email her either, so I'm not putting the guilt on her. Councilwoman Shornack has sat here and told us she's busy. Her workspace doesn't allow her a lot of communication. She reached out to me a couple times. We've had a fine process. Councilman Lesage doesn't communicate with me at all. He doesn't even acknowledge me in public. He works. That's about it. I don't see him. He will call me back if I call him. But I didn't hear from him tonight that he wasn't going to be at the meeting. He didn't call the mayor and say, hey, mayor, I got a family event. I'm not going to be there. No, you can't do that. But and I wouldn't. But it's just when you talk about common and simple respect, we all have to display it. And again, I'm taking the blame for that too. I have to do the same thing. So we can't just sit here and jab at each other. We have to, you talk about coming together. Maybe things for everybody would pass a lot easier if, people would put their differences aside, work on the art of compromise. We don't have to get along, but we have to do our jobs. And if you want to suggest that I might be a bully because of my passion, then I'll be guilty as charged and I'll be a proud bully. We have to make votes that help this city. Those are the things that we have to do. But a 7-0 vote on a budget, nobody agreed on the method of funding that budget. We just shook things up the other night by passing a 5 mil tax increase. And if Mr. O'Neill sits over there and chooses not to look at it and go about it with the least impactful ways, that's the city manager. That's who was hired by the current majority to run this city. So talk to the current majority about your city manager and how he chooses to fund the budget. That's what I would tell you. Don't look at the council. The mayor doesn't create this budget, regardless of what you people would like to believe. The budget went through on these council members. All 7 of us made that hard decision. Don't take credit for that, Mr. O'Neill. You didn't get council to pass this budget. We found a way. Mr. Lesage worked with Ms. Foster. Mr. Carnegie did. We all spoke to each other and we found a way. Don't take from us the ability that we put together the votes to put this budget in play. The city manager is responsible for that. That's his job. That's the previous city manager's job. That isn't my role, and it's never been my role. My role is to have a conscience.